What is good, y'all? It is Jimbo Jamble for the final part of OP12 in blue Kuzan. Now, this deck draws cards like no other deck that has ever seen the sun. You know, the built-in leader effect is just so weird, but it's so cool and so fun. You know, it's definitely a fan favorite leader from the set, but we're gonna get right in the deck list. But before, hit that like button, hit that sub button, you know what to do. We'll get into it. Alrighty, y'all, so this leader is so interesting. When you trash cards from your hand due to a Navy card effect, you can draw an equal number of cards to the amount trashed. That is really, really good. You know, it almost reads like a custom card, but it's not. It's a real card. It's been out in the game, so, you know, we got to deal with it. This card is very interesting. You know, you're running a nice blue navy package, blue tempo kind of navy package, trashing a bunch of cards and just refilling your hand over and over again. You're just drawing so many cards, but we get into actual meat and bones of this. Toshigi, look at top 5, add a navy card. You know, you're searching your deck. Nothing really to explain there. We got this Rosinante. Opponent's turn, if a blue navy character is removed by an effect, you can rest that character and trash a card from your hand instead, allowing you to draw another card. So it's borderline free in a sense, but this card is really needed for, you know, the removal matchup because it definitely pops up here and there. You know, this deck definitely has a struggle against removal decks, so we need some sort of anti-removal card there. And then this is the card that does it, and you know, it comes up. We got the 3-drop Sengoku. This card's nuts. On play, trash card from your hand. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Reveal 2 navy cards. Add them to your hand. Put the rest at the bottom. You're drawing 3 off of that. You're +1ing off of that. So you play this out. You trash a card. Your leader ability will trigger eventually. Draw a card, and then you get to search 2 others. So you have 3 chances to add the cards you need, which is really strong. And then, you know, people think this is the best card in the deck. I can understand why. Then we got a generic little 2K here. Hina, activate main, rest this character, trash a card from your hand. You draw a card after, of course. Up to one of your opponent's characters with a base cost of 4 or less cannot block. So you can target things like Rebecca, Lucky Roo. You can target, you know, some nice PRB blockers that are coming out eventually. But this card is really just a 2K, but it comes up 100% if you have like a huge board with, you know, the big drops we're going to show here in a minute. You know, playing this out and just saying no to one of their blockers really gets some damage in. Then we got 4 of the pudding. You know, I think this is just rule of thumb. If you're playing a deck that has blue, you play this card in some sort of way. This card definitely is good at a 4 of because, you know, this deck really doesn't have too many good second turn plays. You know, there are cards like the 4-drop Cavendish, but I kind of wanted to, you know, present, you know, an exoskeleton for, you know, what you kind of should run in this deck, and you can kind of go out from there, put some other tech cards in. But this is one of the 4-drops we play along with this 4-drop Borsellino. Once per turn, if the character will be removed by an effect, you can trash a card from your hand instead. Your leader will draw you 1. And then opponent's turn, if your leader's navy, becomes a blocker and a 6K blocker. So real strong. It's a lot like that black Borsellino from 02, but it's kind of translated into blue terms. That's really all I can say. Real strong, you know, turn 2 play there. Then we got the 2K Suru from 06. On play, trash 2 cards from your hand. You'll draw 2 after. Your opponent returns one of their characters to their hand. They choose the card that they return. So this card can come up if you're playing against a slower deck like Bonnie or Shanks, or sometimes Lucci. It comes up. You know, sometimes they have, you know, only 1 body on the board and you can bounce it to hand, but this card's really just a 2K that can come up. You know, there's a lot of Navy 2Ks in the game, but this is just one of the better ones. That's really the only reason why we run it. Then we got this Z from the new set. On play, trash 2 cards from your hand. You get to draw 2 after that. Once again, activate main, you may trash this character, bounce a 5 cost to its owner's hand. Really, this is just used for the 2K once again, but this card definitely comes up in some matchups, you know, against decks like Rayleigh, or, you know, maybe decks like Zoro. You can bounce their Cavendishes to hand, maybe their Dashikis if you really want to, but I don't know if that's really what I would do. But, you know, this is definitely one of the better Navy 2Ks. That's really why we run it. Then the real meat of this deck, 6-drop Kuzan, 6 cost 8k. If you have 5 or more cards in your hand, this character becomes a 7 cost. So it can allow you to, you know, lock cards like 9-Mom out of range, like Grab Blade out of range, and you name it. Just a lot of cards that are really meta relevant nowadays. You know, it just helps keep that cost going, not have to worry about removal. And then on play, trash card from your hand, you get to draw a card after. Up to one of your opponent's characters can't attack till your next turn, so it's like that 6-drop Boa from 07, but you get to trash a card, but you just draw the card back anyway. So pretty good card there, very strong card, strong turn 3. You know, if you're up against a deck maybe like Green Zoro, you can, you know, drop the Kuzan and then target their Cavendish to not be able to swing. So real strong card. Then we got the 7 cost Sokka. On play, if your leader's Navy type, draw 2, and then activate main, trash card from your hand. You get to draw another, give Arrested Dawn to a leader or character. This card is nuts if you have more than one on the board. This card is crazy in multiples. That's really all I can say. But other than that, it's a strong, you know, this deck likes going second significantly more than going first. So if you're going first, this is a good turn 4 play to drop, instead of, you know, the Garp into characters, which will show here in a second. 8-drop Garp. On play, trash card from your hand, draw 1, play a blue Navy character with a power of 8k or less other than himself from your hand. This is huge for this deck. Double drop spam is super relevant in here. You know, you're drawing so many cards with the leader effect, so you're definitely going to see this in some capacity at some point in time. So on turn 4 going second, you typically drop this into this or this, and you got a scary board in one turn already. It's very, very good card. Then we got the Ice Block Pheasant Peck. Counter, a leader or character gets 4k for the battle, then you trash card from your hand, allowing you to draw 1. So this is almost like Giant in a way. So I definitely could see why they didn't ban Giant, considering this card was going to come into the game. And then the trigger, you make trash card from your hand, draw 1 card, and then you get to draw another because you trashed a card from a Navy effect. So it's a trigger draw 2, essentially. So this is a very strong card to run. Then we got 2 Red Rock, 6 cost event, main, place a character at the bottom of the deck. Very strong event card. Once again, against slower matchups, this card's phenomenal. The Red Rock and the Kuzan are very strong in his slow decks. But, you know, this is a very strong card. You kind of have to run it in some sort of a sense. Along with Grab Blade, you guys know what this does. Main, place 2 6 cost or less characters to the bottom of the owner's deck. And then trigger bottom decks of 5. This card is so strong. You know, if you're up against, you know, kind of the complete opposite of what Red Rock was designed for, you have Grab Blade to get rid of what that was designed for. So, you know, you got some real strong removal in there. Say, you know, you drop Garp into one of these, and then Garp into one of these again, and then you can just start Grab Blading and Red Rocking the next turn. You know, it's a very strong tempo-based deck. You know, it definitely takes some turns to set up, but it's definitely worth it in the end. But that's going to do it for the deck list. Let's head into some games. Alrighty guys, game 1 up against Piss Kid. This deck is very strong with that new Kuma, but we're just going to start off with double search, add Sengoku and Garp. You know, we got that Sengoku for next turn, being able to, you know, find exactly what we need for the up and coming turns. They swing a 6 at lead, we take. I swing a 5 at lead, they take. And I really have no other plays. You know, I was between that Pudding and Sengoku, but I ended up dropping that Sengoku. I kind of need to see what I need to see. So we add a Borzolino and Sakazuki. Big 9 at lead from opponent. Take. Fine with that. I have 3 Pheasant Pecks in hand. So I just dropped that Borzolino. I do not have a Kuzan on curve, even though it wouldn't really do much. And then drop that Kuma, heal up to 5, 6-2 lead. You know, it's just simple block 1k. I'm fine with, you know, dropping that, putting on a hand. I don't really see myself using it anytime soon. So, you know, I'm going to start off by doing the thing. Card into card, draw 3. I have all 4 Pheasant Peck in hand. You know, I have to get rid of one of those at some point. So, touch it on the lead, swing 6, they counter. They drop that 7-drop Law, heal a 8-drop Kid, 7k to lead. I'm just going to take. You know, I definitely want cards in hand. I don't mind it one bit. So I'm going to just block 2k, 1k, that Kuma swing, and then that Law becomes a blocker. And this turn, I definitely have enough board presence to just grab blade that Kuma, because, you know, you can't KO without it healing a card. So it's good to be able to have that grab blade for that reason. So I'm just going to use Sako's ability, and then I get some double 9k swings in. They take the first one and then block 1k the second one. Have 2 Dawn up. They drop that 8-drop Kid, and then the Apu blocker becomes a blocker if they have another Supernova on the board. So I'm going to counter on both of those swings. You know, we're sitting all right. It really is just the fact of the Apus on the board. I really don't like that. So I'm just going to bottom deck that Law with the Red Rock and then challenge that Kid to as much of my possibility. You know, I want to try to get it dead. So give me a card. Thinking about these swings here. I'm just going to keep swinging 9s. You know, 9k, 9k. I'm just going to swing a 6 at lead, force them to take a life. I know they have a 2k in hand now. So they drop another Kuma, trash a Law, knowing that the only card in their hand is Beige. So I could swing perfect, you know, perfect magic numbers here. They swing a 8k counter with the Pheasant Peck, and then a 10k. Really thinking about what I want to do here, if I want to block or take. And I end up taking at the end of the day. You know, it's kind of annoying that I'm down to 0 this early and they have 4, but we should be fine. You know, I'm just gonna start with the 5 at lead. They take. I'm gonna drop that Kuzan, freeze the Kid, draw a card, and then I'm going to Sakazuki add a Dondu itself. I'm gonna block with that Apu with the 9k at lead, and then I swing another 9 at lead. They block 1k, and then I'm gonna get a 5k swing in with that Sengoku. You know, might as well get some use out of it. I have nothing else to do with my Dawn anyway, so they do some searching, add a 2-cost Beige. You know, with my board presence, you know, they're swinging, you know, 9k and 10k. I'm just gonna counter out. You know, I have that Hina in hand. I can target that Beige to not be able to block for the turn. So I'm just gonna start off with a 5 at lead. See if they just end up taking. So I'm gonna drop 3. I'm gonna drop that Hina, make that Beige unblockable, and I'm just gonna get some magic numbers in. You know, 7k lead. I know one of the cards in his hand is a brick, so they want to trash the rest of their hand for it. More power to them. They do. So I'm just gonna swing 8. You know, I can't really do anything else there. 8k, 8k, and then a lot K to lead. That was a really good, you know, really good game, to be honest. You know, I lasted quite a long time with low life when it comes to, you know, the long game, but we ended up taking it. But we're gonna head into the next one. Alrighty, y'all. Game 2 up against Blue Black Saka. Now we have that Rosie in hand, but I don't see the hand being any better without it. So I want to mulligan, get a better hand. So they do some searching, swing an AK at lead. They take. 4 Dawn, I'm expecting a 4-cost Kuzan here. They swing a 5 at lead, I take, they drop that Kuzan. I'm going to putting them out of their hand. They're able to, sculpt that hand consistently every single turn. So I want to try and, mitigate that. And they end up bouncing my putting in hand for some reason. So I'm definitely thinking of just swinging big at lead and just forcing them to double 2k. If they just take this life, I can putting them again, which would just be really funny. So they end up 2k, 1k, 1k. And then I just drop that Borzo blocker. That card is unremovable against Sokka, so that is huge. And then I even have that Grab Blade for next turn. I definitely don't see myself dropping that Garp, with the board that they have. They are on 8 Dawns, so I could definitely see like a Rebecca Hina, good stuff. I end up using that Pheasant Peck trigger, draw 2 essentially. And they drop that Mancherry into Rebecca. I think I had a little lag spike there, so that's why it looked like it was really fast. To do Mancherry, add Rebecca, play Rebecca, add 2k, play brand new, add a Suru 2k. I believe that's what they did there. So I want to bottom deck, those threatening characters on board. Don't want those on there. So I'm just going to pass, swing 5 at that Mancherry. Don't want them getting value off of that every single turn. So, we're sitting pretty good, especially if we can just drop that Garp into Sokka or Kuzan, depending. But we do end up top decking the Red Rock, and that is exactly the card I need. They spent all their Dawn just trying to bop something. So I'm just going to swing a 7k at lead. I'm just going to pass, I think we're good. We're definitely in a good spot here. I'm just going to drop that Garp into something next turn. They end up Tempest kicking the Borso, play a Brook, try to pop it, and then play another Brook, try to pop it. So, yeah, they do all that good stuff. They have double Brook on board. That is scary. So, playing the Kuzan off this Garp is definitely the better situation here. So, draw a card, play that Kuzan, target one of the Brooks. So, definitely negating one of those built-in KOs. So my board should be looking decent. It should be fine next turn, but I'm not 100% sure. I definitely don't know what to expect with Sokka. The deck is still kind of being built as just a generic, deck list to run. So I really don't know what to expect here. There could be random cards in here that I don't even know what they do. They start with a 7k at lead, I take. And they have 8 Dawn up. And they're going to swing a 7k to lead with a Brook. I'm just going to Pheasant Peck out. Thinking of which card to trash. I'm going to trash that Sengoku. I have double Borso blocker that I might end up playing out next turn, which is, really strong. But they start double Suru, Murakumo bottom deck 1 card, which is something, And I definitely kind of misplayed here. I definitely should have grab bladed both of the Brooks and just swing big, but I ended up dropping double Borsalino blocker and just hoping for a miracle, We start off with a Tempest Kick minus to that Kuzan to a 3 cost. And they swing a 6k at lead. I'm just going to take, I don't see them removing those Borsos, so I'm fine with taking this card. They drop another Suru. 3rd Suru, swing Brook pop. Then they drop that Sengoku blocker, play out a Kuzan from trash, draw card. Now I'm really just hoping I can, math out here. I definitely think 8k, 8k, 9k is kind of the move here. They've gone through a decent bit of 2ks. It's really just hoping that they don't have the counter. I'm just gonna swing 8k, 8k, 9k. They take the first 8k and then they counter out of the second 8k, letting us lose. This was a close game. I definitely could have grab bladed the double Brooks in that moment, but it didn't really matter. They had a Sengoku summon a card, at the end of the day, but you know, Sokka is Sokka. Very annoying deck, but we're gonna head into the third game. Alright, game 3 up against Red Purple Luffy. I have not seen this deck in quite a while. You know, the hand's looking pretty bad there. Hand's looking alright here, especially going second. We can definitely fix up that hand with the Sengoku. Start with a play out a Zorajuro and swing 6. I'm just gonna take. I'm gonna swing a big 8k on the leader. You know, I want to get life down as much as I can. I'm thinking about the countering here. They end up Gatling, trashing a... I'm not 100% sure of which card they trashed there, but I don't know why I didn't check, but oh well. I'm gonna add a 6 cost Kuzan. Perfect turn 3 play. I'm going to swing 7k on the lead. I'm just going to take, unfortunately, a brick. And then they swing a 9k to lead. I'm just going to take again. It's kind of annoying, but, you know, we're good. I'm swinging 5k at that Juro. You know, I'm just going to drop that board sub blocker. You know, I don't see myself dropping that Kuzan. And good thing I saved my Kuzan for a card that's coming up here in a second. So going on, they ramp up to 9 because they were at 8. Leader ability ramps for free if they have 8 or more Dawn. They drop a 7-up Sanji, rest that board sub blocker. 7k on the lead. I am just going to 2k and 1k out there. Then another 7. I'm going to Pheasant Peck. Drop that Grab Blade. I don't see myself needing that card in this matchup. They're dropping really only one thing per turn, so I don't really see myself needing the card there. They drop a Nami Searcher, add a 2k unblockable Sanji, which is very annoying, but that's fine. We're just going to play that Garp into the Kuzan. Target that Sanji, draw another card. We draw into another Garp. You know, we're pretty bricked on cards right now, but considering that Sanji can attack, we are sitting okay. You know, I'm definitely expecting some sort of 9-drop Luffy or like maybe an 8-drop Dragon, but they drop something very unexpected here, assuming, you know, they don't really have much in hand. So they swing a 6 at lead. I'm just going to counter 2. You know, I'm good with that. And then they drop the Roger. I'm just going to block. I don't want to see myself getting at too low of life. And then we top deck the Kuzan. Target that Roger, which is huge. You know, considering I'm not going to have any blockers up, it's really good to be able to, you know, practically negate the Roger from doing stuff. So I'm going to drop that Garp into Kuzan. Now we have 2k, 2k, 1k with the Dawn up in case, you know, things happen. So they really have no other option but to go for a game. Or they're kind of just dead on the next turn. My board is really, really scary. So this first swing I might actually take. You know, yeah, the AK swing, 100% I'm going to take that. I see a Grab Blade. Trigger doesn't do anything. But I'm going to swing another 8 onto lead, knowing that there's going to be a 9k swing that I can counter out of anyway. And with that Pheasant Peck, I'm fine. I don't even need to pretty much take cards out of hand. So I can just Pheasant Peck, trash that Grab Blade. They only have 1 Dawn up, assuming it's a giant, obviously. So I'm going to swing that magic number 8k onto 6. And then they end up Rad Beaming. So I practically just have guaranteed math here. Just 9k lead. I'm just kind of testing for, you know, like double 2k. But they do have the double 2k. So I can just swing 6k, 8k, a lot k, and just kind of win on the spot there. Even if they hit like a minusing trigger, I can just swing with that Resonante if it comes up. But they take both swings. They got a plus 1k trigger for Rad Beam, but I just swing, was that 14k? 16k, sorry. But you know, this matchup's pretty good. You know, if you see enough Kuzans and Red Rocks, you can definitely put in some work against this deck. But we're gonna head into the last game against Shanks. Alrighty, y'all, so game 4 up against Shanks. Now, I hate going up against Shanks. I will die on that hill, but it's beatable if you know how to swing correctly, you know, when to swing, you know, magic numbers or 1k above those magic numbers with their leader ability going on, but you're gonna swing double 5s, so that's very annoying. Taking a quick card to trash. I'm gonna trash 2k. You know, the two 1ks in my hand are too good to not just toss this early on. So I'm gonna drop that Sengoku, you know, look for cards such as, you know, that 6-drop Kuzan. We added another Borsalino and we draw into another Borsalino, so we have double up on those. Easily 1k on that one. They drop a Lucky Roo, and you know, they can't KO the Borsalino if I just play that out. So I'm just gonna start with a 7k onto the lead. Hopefully get a card out of life, which we do. 4 Dawn up. I'm gonna drop that Borso blocker and just pass. Going on to their 7 Dawn turn, expecting maybe a Beckman try to KO the Borso, but they swing a 5. Just gonna block for free. I doubt they're gonna swing with that Lucky Root blocker. They definitely want to get value out of that card. So then they drop the 7-cost Newgate, which is very annoying card, but I think this is the turn where I just go Garp into Sokka here. You know, refill that hand, we draw the Red Rock, which is what we need for when they drop, you know, maybe that Rush Shanks, or, you know, even a Pop Shanks, or even just like a Rush character that I don't want on the board. You know, good thing they're only playing 1 body a turn, because they just kind of wasted their Dawn on nothing at the end of the day. So going on to their 9 Dawn turn, more than likely I'm expecting maybe a Rayleigh here, pop some of my board, which is very, very annoying. I really don't know why they minus the Garp instead of the Sokka, but you know, they might not know what's going on with the cards. But so I definitely know it is my my best interest to drop that Kuzan this turn on that Rayleigh. And target that Rayleigh, draw a card, use the Sokka ability, attach a Dawn to lead. And I'm just gonna swing a 6 to lead. You know, magic number there. They have to at least counter, even with leader. So swing another 8k to lead. And they take their down to 3 life. I drop another Borsalino blocker. We are sitting pretty good. You know, hopefully they don't drop another Rayleigh. They end up dropping that Rush Shanks. 5k onto lead. It's an easy counter. Swing a 7k. You know, bunch of stuff happened really quickly there, but doesn't matter. We have the Red Rock to get rid of that. 10-drop Shanks, which is huge on our end. And then we get another attached to lead. Have a Dawn up for that Pheasant Peck. Swing 8k, 8k, 9k. I believe that's what the numbers I did. They take both 8ks. You know, maybe they take the last 9k. They do. Okay, they're down to no life. That's a pretty big hand they got there. Unfortunately, I play blue, so they drop a Rayleigh, you know, minus stuff. Going to pop one of those cards. I don't know why they didn't pop the Sokka. The Sokka does so much better than, honestly, all the other cards in the deck. So, let's swing a 5 at lead. Just gonna block. I have 2 Dawn up for what I'm assuming is a Red Hawk. So I'm just gonna hee-hee-ha, putting that hand, and then swing a huge 12 to lead, more than likely going for game there. They were able to counter up to 10k, and the game was over. Then I think the 4-drop pudding is such a bannable card, it is not even funny, but that's really the only reason why I won. The game definitely would have gone on for a lot longer, but you know, it's how the game is. But we're gonna head into that post discussion. Alrighty, y'all. Blue Kuzan is such a fun deck. It's not even funny, but that is going to do it for all the OP12 leaders. You know, this set is definitely something. There's all sorts of new unique decks that come out, month to month. New cards from core sets, structure decks, promo cards, just you name it. Decks change all the time, and that's just how this game is. You're always going to be playing something different, or sticking with the leader that you like. I mean, I got one I love, but that's going to do it for all the OP12 showcases. We're going to get into some, other topics of One Piece here soon, but I hope y'all enjoyed. We are out of here.